Hey, how you doing? This is Kitch, and you are watching me play Factorio. I've been going around trying to break some stuff, just playing with random inputs and outputs, adjusting, cutting stuff off, trying to see if I can break one of these sushi setups. I haven't been successful yet, but I haven't been very creative in my breakings. Everything's been going really well. I did have a biter attack that came in here and wreaked havoc on my green circuit maker over here. So that's one of the things that I was not prepared for. The sushi setup cannot take on biters. Luckily, mods can. So I installed the biters be gone on here just to go ahead and get rid of those. I was playing around with this setup up here trying to break it. I could not. And it's interesting. I got to looking at it a little bit closer and really kind of wanted to understand a little bit better what was going on. So I took one of these little sections down here and kind of blew it up down here just to take a little closer look at it. And it may be obvious to you what's going on. It may not be obvious to others. So let me just kind of share what I've learned here in my dissection of this little guy. I'm going to go ahead and void some things out here just to break it up into sections and make it a little bit easier to follow. Okay, so we've got our main input line coming in right here. This first splitter and this second splitter aren't actually the first part of the process. We'll come back to it later. The process actually starts right here. So our main line comes through. We have a full yellow belt. We are going to break that in half. So half of it's going north, half of it's going south here. Then we're going to move out here a little bit, and one of those halves we're going to break in half. So we've got 25% here, 25% here, 50% here. All right. And then we're going to combine that 25 and 50 together. We're going to get our 75% coming up this way and 25% coming out. Now down here, this is the part that goes out onto the sushi belt. That's this guy right here, or this guy right here, the one that actually goes out. And this one up here is the one that loops back around. So we're going to get 75% of the belt. 75% of what comes in is going to come back around and basically just go through the process again and get split up. So what this does right here is it puts a bounds on this output here. You can't, no matter what, worst case scenario, you can't have more than 25% going out on the main line. Now, why is that good? Well, that is good because you have, in the science scenario, this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 lines coming out. So 25% bound here, 25% bound here, 25% bound here, 25% bound here means that we are going fully out on this belt. 100% is our limit. We can't go over that, so that means that there is never a backup. So that's the backup preventage. And then to finalize things up again, this is our sushi belt going out and around. That's all this stuff out here. That is going to come back around. And it's going to hit this input right here. That's a priority splitter for that side. So it's going to take in this stuff first. So now that that 25% has made its way all the way back around, I would expect this input line to have stopped. And it did. And that's going to continue on through here and start the process again. So you end up with a bound 25% coming out here that will never stop. That is just going to work, and that's why this setup works and is really hard to break. To break it, I had to basically mix up the inputs going in and out here. So yeah, that's really cool. I really like that setup. Very interesting, very creative. Not something I would have come up with, but it's one of those things that's going to be in the back of my mind now, sometime in the future. So maybe we can use that information later. But that's not what I came to talk to you about. I came to talk about trains, and we've got some trains over here. So let's go ahead and roll the intro, and let's look at some train stuff. All right, so the intention of this is not to be any kind of like train tutorial. I don't want to mislead you in that area. And it's also not really going to solve a problem. It's just a problem that I've observed. And I see it throughout the Factorio community. And I see it answered a lot. And I believe those answers are not wrong, but not optimal. Let's say that. So let's just kind of explain the setup I have here. I have 12 stations. I have 6 drop-off stations, 6 pickup stations. If you look at the map here, you can see I've got them all like all the way around like this. 6 drop-offs, 6 pickups. We have 6 trains, and most of them running back and forth. Let's just hop on this guy, and we'll take him on down. There's stackers at the front of each station. And down here, we have our pickups. We are loading up iron down here and dropping it off up there. Now, I've got these little contraptions, and basically what I'm wanting to do, I'm using the Nixie Tubes mod to put a counter here on how many trains have stopped at that station since I built it. So you see we got 477 have stopped there, 82 up there, 462. And since the same logic that's used to count the trains was what I used in Practical Factorio to make the little chimes as the trains arrived and left, I did that as well. I like it. It makes me happy. But let's take a look at the numbers we see, right? Oh, and all those stations are named the same, I should say. They've all got the same. These are all pickup A, since they're on the very first little block here. So let's take a look at how many trains have visited each station. We've had 0 down here since this was built. We've had 11 at this one. Okay, getting better. 463, all right, 78, 484, 484. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one and take a look at how the drop-offs are. You probably imagine it is going to be pretty similar. 484, 82, 477, 465, 11, and 0. So, yeah. These belts up here are completely empty. No train is visiting them. These are all completely full. And if you do name your stations the same, if you've ever been in that situation, you may recognize this problem. It's a common one. So what's the big deal with it? Well, there's a couple of issues with it. It's annoying having stations that aren't used, but it's actually a throughput issue. And once this guy gets down here, I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. See, this one right here had stuff in it. It's full. It fills up really fast because it's filling up from these chests. Now, this one up here, okay, now the chests are empty. This is basically filling up off the belt, and that is extremely slow. It's much faster to fill them up from the chest than it is from the belt. So if a station is empty, it's not optimal for a train to be going there. If it were to go down here with these full chests, it would fill up super fast, but they're not. They actually prefer the shortest one. They're always going to go to the closest. So these guys are always going to be full, while these guys on the end are going to be empty most of the time or visited very, very rarely. That is a sharp drop off there. 467 to 11. Just like that, and then down to 0. So that is the problem that I've seen and observed with that. Now, my personal Kitch solution to all of these, in pretty much all of my playthroughs, has been this system right here. And if you just want to take a look at these numbers right now, I'm sure they're going to be pretty good. Okay, we have 447, 447, 447, 446, we dropped 1, 447, and 447. That is, that's pretty consistent right there, if you ask me. Let's take a look up here. 447, 447, 447, 447. Just talking about 447. Hey, what's going to be up here? Oh, 448. Okay. Yeah. That's a system that works, right? Yeah. Okay, so how did I do this? Well, if you take a look at the circuits up here, you can look at them all day. There's no circuitry going on. There's nothing, no tricks, no nothing. It's basically grassroots, normal, Factorio. I have named every single one of these stations differently, and each pickup and drop-off has its own route, and there's a train dedicated to it. So this one is always going to go to Station 3, drop off 3. This one down here is always going to pick up from pickup 5 and drop off B5. Same thing with you, 6, you, B4, drop off B4. Works really well. It's extremely balanced, and yeah, no, it just works. And like I said, this has been an easy way to do this. The problem with this system is you have to set up every single route individually for every single train. It took a lot longer to set up this than it did this one, where this train and this train have the exact same schedule. This one has the exact same schedule. You can just right-click and copy-paste through all the trains you're adding, and you don't have to think about it. It just works. And this could work all over your map, right? You could have stations called Pickup A just all over the map, and it's the potential's there for the trains to go there. So this one works by the numbers fairly well, but it's not the easiest, most elegant solution, I'll say. What I see recommended a lot on the forums and Reddit and in the community and in the comments of my videos is the way to deal with that situation in particular is to put a limit on your station, basically. So what I have here is an enabled condition that says if the iron ore is greater than 2K, I will enable the station. Makes sense. If it's less than that, the station is going to be closed. And currently, the station is closed because we have less than 2,000 ore in all of these 12 chests. Okay, we just got more, so the station's open again. Which is good. So that basically means don't stop in this station unless there's enough ore for you to pick up. And that takes care of the throughput problem. But we still get a bit of a distribution problem, because if you look, we've got 494... 493, 484, 375, and 35. It's better, but it's still not fixed. And same thing on the drop-off. I have the logic set up to only visit a station if there's enough room to unload your stuff in there. So if it's less than, what is it, like 28K? No, 26,800. If there's less iron than that in all these 12 chests, then that means that there's enough to put in a load from a train. And again, 22 up here, 395, and then we're getting back up. So it's not consistent, but it's better, right? At least we have some trains visiting up here, and we have trains visiting up here a lot more often. If you look at this belt coming out, it's not full, but it's fuller than having 2 empty belts. So we're getting there, but the problem is not solved by any means. And you have some situations that can occur here, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. So my first thought in this is, hey, what if we just threw more trains at it? It seems like it makes sense. So let's take a look at that. We're looking at numbers that are more consistent. 591, that's actually not looking bad. Still not 100% optimal, though. I don't know if you just caught that, but that was an empty train that just went up there and went around. I think that's what I saw. But you can kind of see some confused train syndrome here. This guy, you can see the arrows. He's trying to find a home, and he just can't find one. And he's going to find one here. Oh, no, he took it. This guy's just going to sit here and be very confused. Okay, here we have a train that's at the drop-off station, and he doesn't have anything to drop off. They get confused from time to time. Okay, this guy's finally found a home. Oh, no, the station just turned. Nope, somebody took it. So, yeah, hopefully this guy will find a home here soon. The throughput isn't harmed though. So what I don't know is if the confused train syndrome, the mad train syndrome, is a real thing. You look at this belt, and perhaps this is all that matters, right? Those full belts coming out. The fact that we have trains that are running around with empty cars or just lost and confused right here. Boy, you just don't get a break. Now, what's interesting to me is that he never picks... Oh, no, he tried to pick the top station. Now he's in the second one. Somebody else picked it first. Oh, he found one. Good job there, guy. Always at the top. All right, you should have checked there first. I guarantee you that one's open more than not. Yeah, it's an interesting situation, and what causes that is something we will look at here in just a minute. Another way that I've seen this addressed is basically it's to counteract the problem that you saw over here. We're back to 6 trains. We don't have the heavy throughput. But the idea is to turn off a station, but only have a station open that has the least amount in it, so that way it gets distributed that way. It wasn't working out well if you just say select the only one here. That gets a little bit crazy with the problem we're going to talk out a little bit later. So what I did is I broke them out into groups of 2, and basically the logic on these, we're reading all the contents out of the station, and we got an A signal and a B signal coming out of there that we're converting it to, and we're saying if B is less than A, open up this station. If A is less than or equal to B, open up this station. So whichever one has the most room in it to dump off, that's the one we are going to open up for the train to go to. And as you can see in that situation, they can flip really quick, so it works out pretty well. And gives an opportunity for these guys up here to get a little bit of action. It's not as good as the full throughput, but it is actually working out a little better than this situation, I think. We're only had 22 up there. Up here in our worst case scenario, we've got 230. And he has a little bit of a bias because of the greater than and or less than or equal to. So actually 165 is our bounds there. So it's getting better. Getting a little bit better. So here, I tried the same situation, but with the double throughput, just more trains. And this is actually looking pretty good, too. We're getting a pretty good-looking belt coming out. And all the numbers are fairly consistent all the way down, which is good. It's still not perfect, but it's not bad. So I was thinking that the solution may be just increase the amount of trains that you have, even if it's more than you actually need. That can work out. But you do see the mad train syndrome here, as well as over there. I just got hit by a train. Thank you, creative mode, for not killing me instantly. Yeah, so there's a guy right there. He's just going to go without picking anything up because he's confused. What are you going to decide to do? Oh, you found a spot. Fantastic. Okay, so the root of this problem is that, kind of like in project management, a lot of the decisions that the train makes are made long before they have adequate information. And if you get into situations where stations are turning off, you'll run into this. So basically, when this train is deciding where it wants to go, it's already made that decision right now. It knows what station it's headed to. Regardless of what situation is going to be there when it arrives, it's already decided what station it's going to get to. If it's station, something happens, some other train pulls into it, it's going to stop and be confused and then try to find a new place to go. So it's that little bit of confusion right there that if it gets too confused, if the pickup and the drop-off station die at the same time, it's going to pass on through like this guy did right here. See, he's not even going to pick anything up. He's just going to go directly to his drop-off station. So is this guy right here. He's going to drop off F. Yeah, they're very confused. So what my thought was here was, what if we add in some additional buffer stations? Instead of having a stacker, we stack them up with train stations. So this way, this guy is not picking what station they're going to go to until they get to this buffer. And let's see, where are you going to decide to go? Going to find a place? Yeah, you're going to find a place. Now, this works. I haven't seen any confused trains with this scenario. This fixes the mad train scenario, which makes me happy. And if we take a look at the schedule, it's basically going to the buffer, then going to the pickup station, then going to the buffer, and then going to the drop-off station. So there's always like an intermediate in here. So this guy hasn't made a decision about what station he's going to go to until they get right here, where they have the most information about what is actually going on. That's when you want to make your decision, whenever you have adequate information. You don't want to make it beforehand. And what numbers are we looking at here? 354, 353. The amount, the higher the number doesn't really mean anything. What we're looking for is consistency up and down the board. And I'm not sure. That looked pretty consistent to me. Let's take a trip up here. I should have hopped a train. Uh, 355, 356, 352, 353, 301, 307. Okay, so there's a little bit of disparity down here, but it's still not looking too bad. I'm wondering if I took off this and did just the regular shut off, if there's not enough room, if that would increase the throughput a bit. I'm not sure. How many trains do I have running on here? Do I have the 6 or no? I've got the 12. That's right, because I was addressing the mad train scenario. This does remove the mad train scenario. It doesn't make everything work all the time perfectly, but it addresses that. So yeah, I'm not sure what the solution is. I mean, I'm getting with the traditional Kitch setup where you're setting up the individual stations. It's kind of a pain to do that because you have to actually keep track of where all your trains are coming and going from and make sure that you balance them accordingly. That is kind of a pain. But if I'm honest, setting up all this circuit network stuff is kind of a pain too. I've seen some other builds out there that get a lot more complex with this. Man, I'm getting hit by trains all over the place. I've seen a lot more complex logic in going in to decide which train. There's some people out there that get this problem, and that's what I really, really like. That makes me feel like I'm not crazy and that this actually is a problem. But they're a lot more complex than that. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not calling this a closed issue at all. I'm basically addressing some people that have left comments since the beginning about this particular situation and ways to address it, and why through it all, through everything I have read and done and played with, why I choose to do it my way, where I set the individual trains to their individual spots. I know the solution to this is the logistic train network mod. But I haven't done that yet. So for now, I think I'm going to stick with this right here until I discover a better way. We're not done with this yet. We'll probably come back to it later. I just wanted to lay out the problem and throw out some of the proposed solutions that I have seen, and just to kind of compare them just to see how they work. Well, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you in the next episode. Have a good one.